Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let's see, it is Wednesday afternoon. I love Wednesdays. I'm not working today, but I am working because I'm working on getting you healthy and myself. And so I asked my husband, I said, would you rather have a hamburger or meatloaf? And usually he'll say something like, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, it doesn't matter doesn't help me. But this time he said, I think I'd rather have a meatloaf. So I started thinking about, well, do I have what I need to make a meatloaf? And I was looking at a recipe that I have, and I didn't have zucchini. And usually I have a recipe, it's a Bobby Flay or maybe an Emeril Lagasse recipe that has zucchini in it. Well, I didn't have any, but I did have 2 green peppers. I usually don't put green peppers in my meatloaf, but I had 2 green peppers that someone had given me out of their garden. I'm like, well, that's pretty good. And then I had a yellow pepper, and of course I had onions, but I didn't have any garlic, and I love garlic in my meatloaf, so I thought, well, I'm just gonna have to do garlic powder this time. I mean, you know, in a pinch, you make do, because we need some supper, and honestly, it's gonna be good. And James Stanley is not gonna say, what'd you leave out? He's never gonna say that. He might say it tastes different, but he's learned after almost 44 years of marriage, hey Josephine, thank you for joining me, that Nancy's gonna substitute. She's not gonna drive all the way to town to get something. So this is gonna be a quick and easy meatloaf. I've kind of gotten the stuff together. I've got the oven on 425. I do shape up my meatloaf different than most people. So that's probably the one thing you're gonna learn today that's a little different. Hey friend, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you have a good meatloaf, just post it in the comments. I'd love to have it. All right, so what I got over here in my Cuisinart, which I love it, is the green pepper, the yellow pepper, green onions. I did have about 5 green onions, so I cut them up. I don't like to put them in their whole because they'll just sliver and make long strings of green onion. I don't like that, so I cut them up little so they'll chop. And then I have like a half of an onion, a medium-sized onion. It called for a whole recipe, or the recipe I saw, and I'm like, I think that's a little too much onion with the green onion. So that's what I do. But here's I cut it up, you know, pretty chunky, and then I just pulse it. But if you pulse it, it kind of bounces it up and down, and it doesn't shred it. You know, it doesn't, I don't want it pureed. I just want it, or pureed, whatever that word is. I just want it to be pulsed. I just want it to be small little pieces, but I don't want it to be liquefied, okay? So that's kind of all I'm going to do there, and I'm going to show it to you. I think it's, well, let me go a couple more pulses, but here's what I want to do first. I want to just push it down and kind of stir it around so that some of that, there you go. So let me go with another couple of pulses. Y'all, it is such a beautiful day outside. I have been outside grounding. You see my bare feet? And praying and meditating and just, you know, thanking God for this beautiful weather and trying to push away any feelings of, oh, the time's changing and it's going to be, you know, this or that or the other. Because I tell you, I don't really love when it gets dark early. And, you know, and I know some of y'all live up north and it gets dark at 4:15, and you know, I'm thankful people live up there. I am going to send out the recipe in an email. So if I don't have your email, you need to put it in here, because this is going to be a good recipe. Now, here's the downside of this. I'm not going to be able to cook it and let you finish it, or let it finish while you're watching. So I have to come back on in about 45 minutes and show you the results. But I will do that. I promise I will do that. But to get the recipe, you're going to have to, I'm going to tell you what it is as we go, so you can write it down if you want to. But to get the recipe written down, you're going to need to, give me your email or be on my email list, which a lot of you are, so I appreciate that too. So what you do is you put, here's what you can put in the comments to automatically get in my email. It'll send you a link, and then you'll have to add your email, and that helps me because I don't want to go into my email and have to add all these emails just because I'm not a secretary. I'm a cook and a health coach, okay? But before I do that, I have to do this, because I said in the intro, I said, Meatloaf and Getting Real. So let me tell you, when I went to put on my lipstick, I have to show you this because this is who I am. It's just who I am. So this is my lipstick, okay? It's Mary Kay, and here's what happened. In the car, leaving it in the car in South Georgia is not a good idea. It all melted down into this part. So I had just bought it, and it was $20, I think. So here's what I've been doing. I've been taking the little sample stick that my sweet friend Shirley Sumner is my makeup specialist, provider, whatever. And so I use that, and that's how I have been putting on my makeup because I won't say I was too cheap, but I just thought that's wasting it if I just let it stay down in there. Now, if you have a better way of getting it out of the bottom of that tube, I want to hear it. But that's the best. Oops. Sometimes you get a little blob. And you just have to spread it out. I remember when I was a little girl, or not when I was a little girl. Well, yeah, as a little girl, my mama, you always had to have on lipstick, and she would roll up that lipstick. So she did send me a new tube, and I'm going to use it. She would roll up that lipstick just like that, and she would go, 1, 2, 3. And then she would do this. Yeah, and then I have to do that because I have a little, yeah, like that. Did any of your mamas do that? And so after she got Alzheimer's, when she would get in my car, she would plop down the visor. Yeah, I see a lot of loves. Yeah, your mama did that too. She would plop down. So I'm still got some goodie in here that I'm going to get, actually a lot of goodie. So I use this when I'm at home, but I take this with me so I don't have to mess with all that other little stick and everything. But she would plop down that visor, and you know what she'd say? She'd do her lipstick, and then she'd pull her lips back like this because she was 84, 85. She'd pull her lips back this, and she said, I want Tommy to give me a facelift. So that's my brother. And she said, you think he would do that? And I'm like, I'm sure he would, But I love you just like you are. Yeah. So funny story, I'll tell you this, and then we get to the meatloaf, because a lot of you tell me you love my story, so here's the story. So we were on the swing, me and my daughter, and she had her head in my daughter's lap, and we were just swinging on the swing, and she did that. She said, you see that? I want to get that fixed. Just that right there. Now, she had a lot of wrinkles, okay, especially on her neck and all that. She said, but that right there. And my daughter said to her, she said, Grandma, I love your wrinkles. And you know what she said? She said, that's why I've kept them so long. I thought that was hilarious. And she just got wittier as she got more into the Alzheimer's. She was just witty. She would come out with the craziest things. But that to me is a funny story. And I've actually got that on video. And we love sharing that around and, laughing about it. And of course, she laughed about it too. She always laughed about everything. If you fell down, she was going to laugh, and then she would find out if you're okay. But she was just going to laugh. All right, here we go with meatloaf. All right, the oven's heating up. I've got 3 pounds of grass-fed beef in here. So let me see if I can pull you over closer, and I'm going to let this up a little bit and tip it down so you can see what I'm doing. All right, there we go. That's probably a little better. All right, so I've got about 1/4 a cup of, that's the oven getting hot. About 1/4 a cup of almond flour. When I pulled this out of the cabinet, it fell over, the top fell off, and it's all on the floor. But I swept it up off the floor and dumped it in the trash. But but I had also some left. Thankfully, it didn't all dump on the floor. So 1/4 a cup is in the bottom of that. Now I'm going to take out all of these veggies, and I'm going to put them in there. So that's going to be about a cup. That's a lot of veggies, okay? So I'm going to put that over in there. You could put whatever you like. I do like when I do have zucchini and put zucchini in there. But this is going to have a whole different flavor, and that's okay too. So that's in there. Let me stick that in the sink. And then 3 eggs at room temperature. And the reason you want them at room temperature, your eggs, if you have them at room temperature, a lot more of the egg is going to release from the shell. If you don't, it's going to stick, and I take my finger and go up in there and get it because, that's the goodness. And I did read Dr. Mercola today had sent out a post that said, there's there's things we get from eggs that really help us build. Okay, it keeps I guess the internet's not so great today. This is real salt. This is what I use, and here's why. If you look in here, you'll see all the minerals in there, and that's what we want. That's got all kinds of minerals in it. It doesn't, it's just basically salt, but it's mined in Utah. So, yeah. All right, and then I'm gonna put a can of tomato paste. Some recipes call for ketchup, but I just like to use tomato paste because I think it's, especially this organic. I use organic tomato paste. Usually I buy it in the case, by the case at Costco. All right, and then I had some leftover bacon, about 3 or 4 pieces, so I chopped that up. I'm gonna put that in there. That was from a couple of days ago, but it's just as good. Now this is something a lot of people don't use, but we like it a lot. It's just chili peppers. I don't know, it just adds a little bit of different flavor. So you see I put about 10 shakes, and then 1/4 cup of whipping cream. I'm gonna measure it out. I normally wouldn't, but there you go, 1/4 cup. So that's gonna be that. All right, now let me see if I got everything up here. So I think I put everything in there. Now I do have a glaze I'm gonna use, and I'll show you that after I get the meatloaf made. So here I go in with my hands. I'm gonna mix it up with my hands. That's just how I do things. I think this meat was 85-15. So it's not gonna be real fatty. Sometimes I would add some oil to it if I thought it was gonna be too lean, but with all these vegetables in it, it's gonna be moist. So that's, and I don't use breadcrumbs because, we don't eat bread. Even keto bread has starchy potato starch. It has, it has a lot of things in it that you just really don't want. And so in your body. So I'm not a fan of the keto bread and all that. Although if you make it with almond flour and, there are some recipes and I've made them, even the white bread chaffle, I make that, but it doesn't call for potato starch or tapioca starch or any of that. So, but that's your preference. That's okay. The thing I didn't put in here is pepper. Let me get some pepper. Okay, so I don't really like this thing because it puts some big flecks of pepper, but I can't find my other pepper right at the moment. I will find it. But you have to shake these things because sometimes they get stuck in there, but I can see it's coming out. All right, so here we go. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, so remember I've got 3 pounds of hamburger. So I'm going to bring my pan over here. I normally do this over on the stove, but I'm gonna do it here. So I'm gonna try to separate out 3 pounds. So that's probably, all right, I got 1 pound here, and I'm just gonna, well, you can see what I'm doing. I'm just gonna put it down. So I've got parchment paper on a little bit more. Parchment paper on a cookie sheet here. Now here's how I like to shape my, you've probably seen me do this before, but I like to shape it up. Now I don't press it together a lot. Let me go ahead and take a couple more out, the rest of them out, just so I make sure I get this kind of evenly done. All right, so there we go. That's 1, 2, 3. And so yeah, that one's got a little, so I try to divide it up so they're equal. You don't want to slight one of your children, do you? I always told my children, I said, if one needed medicine, I didn't give it to all of you, so I'm not going to always do things what you think is fair. I'm going to give you what I think you need. And so I think that's important that we do that, and especially when you're making meatloaf, right? I do want these to be equal though, because as they're cooking, you pull that down to that end a little bit. As they're cooking, you want them to cook evenly. So I think that's pretty even. Maybe, I don't know, this first one just still seems to be a little bit slighted. Okay, so here we go. I just keep but I don't press it hard. I don't want them stacked in together. So I kind of do that. Now that is what your mama's meatloaf probably looked like, or some, but I like to press it down flat and make it like that. That's what mine ends up looking like, okay? So it's more thin, it's about 1 inch, really about 1 inch thick. Maybe a little more than 1 inch. like that. And the reason for that, for me, is I get more browned on the outside, because that's the part that people like, or a lot of people like, less on the inside that's not browned, and it cooks faster. And I'm going to show you one more little trick, so keep watching, because anybody else do their meatloaf like this? I learned this, I think it was Emeril Lagasse did a meatloaf like this, but it could have been Bobby Flay. I used to watch those videos a lot. I don't watch them so much anymore, but you can find Emeril's meat. You can find their recipes, you know, and their videos on YouTube. All right, so there we go. So I think I'm getting pretty even here. Yep, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to take my finger and just poke holes in it all around, and that's going to help it to cook more evenly. Something right there doesn't want it to go. Wonder what that is. Okay. So my husband and I were sitting on the porch a while ago and looked across the pond, and there was a deer in the water, and there was something else. It looked like a white deer. It could have been, but it may have been a white dog, but I don't think the dog would have been there with the deer. But anyway, that's what we saw. All right, so I'm poking holes, and then I'm going to put this in a 425 oven, okay? And I don't even know how long it's going to take it to cook, but I'm going to time it, and then I'll know. Okay, so let me get my hands wiped. I got a paper towel right here. Okay, and I'm going to put this in the oven, and then I want you to come back. I'll come back on here. I'm thinking this is going to need to cook at least 40 minutes. I'm going to let it cook at 40 minutes. But don't leave yet. I'm about to show you the glaze. I'm not going to put the glaze on yet. I'm going to let it cook about 20 minutes, and then I'll put the glaze on, because the glaze will kind of burn. Let me turn you around. You can see me stick it in the oven, I guess. Here we go. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start this timer. I'm going to put 25 minutes, and I'll be able to tell. Okay, and let me turn you back around and let you see the glaze. So the glaze is, y'all, I got to show y'all my favorite thing about my kitchen. You know, I remodeled my kitchen. We raised the ceiling up. Anyway, 42 years of cooking in that little kitchen and doing demos. You'd have to go back to my YouTube channel and see some of my old demos, because, you know, they took down all my Facebook. They take off your Facebook videos after 30 days now, which I understand that. I don't know how they saved them all anyway. But I had a tiny little, it was literally about this wide. It was about 20 inches wide, little island that had a flap that came up, and then just, you know, half this kitchen size, and I had a tiny little sink. But my favorite thing about this kitchen is my sink. Look at this. I'm like, as big as you can get it, let's get it. And you see all those dishes in there. But I told my husband, I said, I can have dirty dishes for days now. I don't do that, but I do love to be able to put my dishes down in there while I'm cooking and just kind of get them out of the way. And then they're out like this. Stick all this in there. And then I can show you, what the glaze is. All right, so I tend to like to mix up things in a measuring cup thing like this, because then it has a pour on it. So what I've got in here is a cup. It's really about a half a cup of ketchup, and then about 2 tablespoons of Swerve brown sugar. You could use monk fruit. Actually, I think that, well, no, it is Swerve. All right, and I didn't get all of this out, so there's no point in letting that go to waste. So I'm going to get the rest of that tomato paste, because I need enough glaze to cover 3 meatloaves, okay? So this is brown sugar, ketchup, and then balsamic vinegar. You can put white vinegar. I tend to like balsamic vinegar better. So I'm putting about 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, and I'm just gonna stir that up. And then in a few minutes, when that gets ready, when that cooks about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I'm gonna, oops, I got a clump of that brown sugar. Let me get all the clumps out. I'm going to put it over that meatloaf. Okay. All right. So while that's cooking, I'm not going to talk for 25 minutes. I'm going to hop off. But I want to tell you about something that happened today. Many of you have asked me about my cookbook I don't have it over here, but anyway, many people want to get my cookbook, and I have it in a Google document that if you want access to that, you can put in recipe and you can get the Google document. But I know most of y'all are probably like me. You don't want a Google document, you want a book that you can hold. So this morning I got with a woman at a Christian bookstore, and she's gonna edit my recipes for me. She's gonna add some scripture. We're gonna make a cookbook, and she found a place that I can get it made at a reasonable price. I mean, before it was gonna be like $10 a book just to get it made, and so she found a place that I can get it cheaper. So I'm gonna sell it. I give one to everyone that joins my challenge. And so I hadn't had one in about 3 months now. So some people are going to get surprises in the mail, but I am going to be selling them. Like over the holidays, you'll be able to, and she's like, we can get a link that you can do it, you know, I don't know, the whole mailing out thing overwhelms me. So I don't think I want to do that, but I might, but, anyway, that I just want to tell you that's some good news. You're going to get my cookbook. Not this recipe. My other meatloaf recipe will be in there. My pumpkin delight recipe, which is an amazing dish for Thanksgiving. So what this book is, it's recipes from people that have been in my challenge that they loved, and they sent them to me, and I added them to the cookbook. So they're not all original with me. I thought about later, I may do a page of Thanksgiving lunch. And I was saying to my group today, I'm like, they were all talking about holidays. How do you make sweet potato souffle? Where is keto? And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Thanksgiving is one day out of the year. We can have and cook our grandma's favorite recipes, our favorite recipes, dressing, turkey, gravy, chicken and dumplings, squash casserole, all those things that mac and cheese, all those things that are not so healthy, but we love them, and it brings back a lot of memories. We can have it one day. So that's what I'm going to have for Thanksgiving, and then we're going to start over in a couple of days. We may have leftovers, but what I have learned is not to cook so much, because when I cook too much, then it's, well, what are we doing with all this stuff? And you feel bad about not eating it because it cost you $1,000 to get all the stuff to make it. But anyway, so I may have a section in that book with like my dressing recipe, which my kids love. My mac and cheese recipe that's a family heirloom. It's got some buttermilk in it, so that makes it a little bit different. My kids will say, nowhere we ever go do they have mac and cheese as good as yours, Mama. And it's really not my recipe, it's my aunt's recipe. And then, there's a cranberry congealed salad that I make that they love. And then, just trying to think, broccoli salad, all the things you do for Thanksgiving. So thank y'all for joining me. Let me know. I got some new people on here. Petronella, Angie, Ellen, Karen. I do know Karen. Harry. Thanks, Karen, for joining me. Rhonda, Louise, Clara, Lynn. Let's see, DK, Judy. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, and look forward to hopping back on here in a little while and sharing the recipe with you. So comment recipe if you want to get the Google Doc of the recipe book. And if you want to get the real recipe book, you'll just have to stay tuned. And if you're on my email list, you'll know about it, because I'll send out a link for you to be able to order. But anyway, let's see what that was. Looking forward to your printed cookbook. Yeah, me too, Karen. Me too. I was just